This video will highlight the significant changes to Ohio Administrative Code 5123-2-06, the Development and Implementation of Behavioral Support Strategies Rule. Internal and external stakeholders came together to collaboratively bring about changes to the rule in order to support people in living the lives they choose to live. The new rule enhances the 90-day review process, provides more input and engagement from the person receiving services and their guardian, and focuses on an annual analysis process that can identify patterns, trends, and ways to reduce restrictive measures.
Hey, Kateri. I've been taking a look at the updated behavior support rule, and I was hoping you could help me go over some of the changes.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to. These changes really add a greater focus on positive measures and ensuring that the person has more voice and choice. The rule supports teams as they help each person communicate what they want in order to live a happy and fulfilling life.
I know that there was a major change to how chemical restraint is defined,
You're right. There are also updated guidelines to help teams know when to use a chemical restraint.
which is certainly a crucial change to understand.
Yes, it is. There is an in-depth discussion available on this specific topic, but in general, the use of chemical restraint occurs only when there is a clear risk of harm and other measures are not effective.
I also wanted to get clarification on restricting food or beverages. Are we ever allowed to restrict them from someone?
Sometimes, but only in very specific circumstances. For example, if someone has been diagnosed with polydipsia, which is a symptom of a disease where a person will have great thirst, they will drink large amounts to the point of making themselves sick or causing a medical issue. Similarly, a person diagnosed with Prader-Willi syndrome will constantly feel hungry and will eat excessive amounts of food throughout the day. Since both of these conditions place someone at immediate risk of harm, it is okay to limit their access to liquids and snacks in order to keep them safe. A physician's diagnosis and HRC approval is necessary in order to put these restrictions in place.
So, does that mean that sometimes food and beverages can be locked up?
Yes, it does. But it is also a reminder that each person is unique and the level of support they require will be minimally restrictive as possible. For example, if we had two people, Robert and Chelsea, Chelsea has Prader-Willi syndrome, but she can make safe decisions about food with staff encouragement. For Chelsea, maybe her food doesn't need to be locked up. Robert, however, has more difficult time and will always eat large amounts of food. So for his safety, his refrigerator and cabinets are locked.
What about shock therapy? I've seen that in movies. Do we still do that?
We've come a long, long way since what you probably saw in a 1970s Hollywood movie. While the use of electroconvulsive therapy is still used for certain medical and psychiatric conditions, it isn't anything like it used to be. We can now target smaller areas of the brain with sophisticated equipment, so it is much safer and has fewer side effects. This technique can only be done by a physician or a credentialed advanced practice registered nurse.
I know that sometimes the people we serve need to have specific assessments done in order to help the team develop strategies and treatment plans. Does it matter who does these assessments? Can't we just go to Assessments Are Us?
Well, there are some requirements. A physician must have a medical board license. If a specific type of information is required, such as how to help a person communicate better or what type of sensory equipment a person needs, the team should seek licensed experts in those specific fields to conduct the assessments. This will empower teams to address as much as they can through great person centered planning. and to feel comfortable seeking expertise when needed for complex situations. As with any other aspect of person centered planning, the SSA or QIDP will need to make sure the information is interwoven throughout the plan and easily understood by team members.
If someone has a guardian, how is the guardian going to know if a provider used a restrictive measure?
Anytime there is a strategy that includes chemical restraint, manual restraint, or timeout, it must specify how and when the guardian wishes to be notified of the use of this restriction. The provider will be keeping track of each time a restrictive measure is used, and this information will be shared with the team whenever the use of the restrictive measure is being reviewed or discussed.
How will a guardian know when an HRC meeting is being held? Can the person and guardian participate?
The person or guardian will be notified no later than 72 hours in advance of an HRC meeting, and they have the right to present information to the committee.
What if they don't like a decision made by the HRC?
Great question. A person or guardian may seek reconsideration of HRC rejection of a restricted measure by submitting a rationale for reconsideration within 14 days of the decision. Here are a couple other steps that can be taken if the person or guardian is dissatisfied with the behavioral support strategy or the process used for developing the strategy. They may appeal to the specially constituted committee if they live in an intermediate care facility, an ICF, or they may seek administrative resolution with the county board. The most important thing is always to ensure that the person or guardian remain active participants on the team.
How often are we supposed to meet? Sometimes it seems like we are meeting all the time, but other times it seems like it's not enough.
Don't we all love looking at Zoom square faces all day? A meeting can be called at any time for any reason. But let's focus on the 90-day review meetings. At these meetings, the team will discuss any changes in a person's behavior and any new skills they have developed. All team members, including the person, will have a chance to weigh in on how they feel things are going.
Does something special happen if a manual restraint has been used?
You're right. If a manual restraint has been used in the last 90 days, the review meeting will include input from the person and at least one direct support professional involved in the restraint. This input will look at why the manual restraint occurred and what could be done differently in the future.
What if there is an immediate crisis and we can't wait until the next scheduled HRC meeting to talk about a restrictive measure?
This does happen, and the rule talks about what happens. If a person is engaging in a behavior that places them in immediate risk of harm or legal sanction, measures can be taken to ensure the safety of the person. A written request must be submitted to the HRC, and this should mention what the risk is to the person and that less restrictive measures have been tried without success.
What happens if the HRC says no?
Anytime the HRC rejects a strategy, then they must provide a written explanation to the QIDP and SSA.
And the last real change I noticed is to the annual analysis of data. I'm sure someone is keeping track of everything. What is the purpose of all that data?
Looking at data over time gives a good picture of trends and patterns regarding restrictive measures. It will provide information to ICFs and county boards about what is working and what isn't. It could help identify areas where a restrictive measure could be reduced or eliminated. Each team will have different ways of presenting this information, such as charts, graphs, or others.
Thanks for going over those highlights of the new rule changes. I look forward to getting more familiar with the rule and taking advantage of any training opportunities coming up.
There will be many training opportunities in the near future. The training topics will go into more detail around several of the rule changes mentioned in this overview. For more information, please visit dodd.ohio.gov.